From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hutchavandy
And Corey Clark.
What do you want?
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, the rest of the questions from the Renegade Express mailbag. Lots of questions about polls, everybody. We waited till Friday so we could cleanse your palate, but people want to talk about polls. They want to talk about the offensive line, Corey, and this run game. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, presenting sponsor of Wake Up Warchant. Lunch specials Monday through Friday for only $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Friday. Chicken strip basket, hand breaded, served with a dipping sauce of your choice, or they'll toss in the sauce or put it on the side for you, however you want it. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Also comes with a side dish of your choice. Plenty of options. You know it. Straight fries, curly fries, onion rings, potato salad, coleslaw, broccoli, side salad, tater tots, or freshly cooked potato chips. All that at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Bye week for the Noles, but not college football. Catch the game over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminoles sports source, which, by the way, I meant to mention this on the show the other day, Corey. I aired. Apparently, Google Podcasts is no longer going to be a thing in a few days, weeks, months. I don't have it in front of me, but I know it's going away. It's being phased out. So if you have an Android device or you use Google Podcasts to listen to your favorite podcast, you're probably aware of this, but just prepare to catch us somewhere else. We're on YouTube all the time, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I don't know what else people use for podcasts if they're not using Spotify or Apple, but we're on it. We're out there, so just know that even though Google Podcasts might be going away, our show is not. Corey Clark, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Thanks for asking.
Good, man. Glad to hear from you. Hot take here. Kind of wish we were covering a game instead of covering an off week. I know we should enjoy the time off. We deserve it. Well earned, but kind of wish we were watching the Noles with a bit of a tomato can in front of them in Virginia Tech, but we'll have to wait a week, apparently.
But I also think it's good for them. I think it comes at a really good time. I don't think that's coach speak, like Norvell said on Tuesday. They are excited about when this comes. It gets them a little healthier, gets their quarterback to be a little healthier, and they get to reset and figure out what they are after 4 games. And they just went through a month where they beat LSU and Clemson, and they still haven't come close to playing a perfect game, a complete game against a Power 5 team. So that's still out there. So it's good to know.
Has anyone else, though?
No. Exactly. And nobody will. That's the thing. Like, maybe they will. Like, there will be games where some good team beats another good team by 28, 35 points. That will happen occasionally. But most of them are going to look like NFL games, folks. Like, when good teams play good teams, they usually come down to the final possession, just like in every single game in the NFL. And that's what you have to get used to. But I think it's just the Boston College game is what bothers people, because that was such a weird step for this program and for this team. But then they came back and won at Clemson. And you can say they didn't play well. Sure, they didn't play well. They didn't play awful, because you don't go into Clemson and play awful and win. That just does not happen. Nobody does that. So they played well enough to win, and now they just got to get better. But, yeah, I think they can play better, right? They can play better on both sides of the ball, and they can play more of a complete game instead of just a half a game, 45 minutes, full game, and see what that looks like for a while.
Yeah, I was trying to think, like, to whittle it down even further to your whole resume thing. And I think our guy S. Quinn tweeted at us, somebody posted, like, best resume so far. I don't know who it was, but Florida State was atop the list. Because you talked about when good teams play good teams, it's going to be a fourth quarter NFL one-possession type game. And I was wondering, like, if you whittle down that resume even further to where you're like, who's at least put together, like, what they look like their best. So we have an idea of, like, I don't know if we've seen Georgia even play for, like, one quarter of their absolute best.
Yeah, well, it's hard to judge because of their opponents.
But I think it's fair to say, like, Florida State's fourth quarter against LSU, like, that's their ceiling. And there's not – I mean, maybe there's a little bit they can go above that, but, man, that's probably their ceiling. And that would win you a national title if you can play like that for the better part of 4 whole quarters. But
well, yeah, and people keep bringing that up as like maybe that's the anomaly. That quarter was the anomaly. Man, look at every game. They went on a 38-3 run against LSU. They went on a 28-0 run against Boston College, and they went on a 24-7 run at Death Valley to close out that game. Like, they have done it every game where they've shown they can play together complementary football and take over a game for large stretches. It's just it's not coming for a whole game, or when it's not coming at the time where you can put the game away. One more touchdown against Boston College, that's a wrap, but they didn't do it. Play better early on defense against Clemson. It's probably you're up 14-3 at half, and maybe that's a wrap, but you didn't do it. So you just hope that starts to come together, and I think it will, because like I said, last year it did. Now they suffered that losing streak in October. But after that, man, somebody tweeted at me like, when was the last time this coaching staff put 4 good quarters together in a row? And I'm like, well, last year they put 16 good quarters together in a row. After that loss to Clemson, they went out and dominated 4 straight opponents by a huge margin. And they were great on both sides of the ball. So they've proven they can do it. You just hope, it starts after this bye week against Virginia Tech.
Did you respond in your mind, or did you actually respond to them?
I actually responded to him. Yeah, can you believe that?
Somebody tweeted at us during the Clemson game about Azarie, and they used profanity, basically saying they were idiots for talking. But they deleted the tweet, though, because Florida State won the football game.
Well, and also, obviously, Azarie sucks, Cypress sucks. They all suck because they gave up completions.
Right.
I mean, obviously, if you're a good cornerback, you don't ever give up anything ever. Nope. All you do is pick off passes and take them to the house. Nope.
But yeah, real quick on that note, Florida State outscored LSU 21-7 in the fourth quarter. That one touchdown, obviously, total garbage time. True freshman out there. Texas outscored Alabama 21-8 in the fourth quarter. So, again, because people talk about Texas maybe has the best win of the season going into Tuscaloosa, but if you whittle it down, it wasn't a whole 4 quarters for them. It was kind of like that second half, fourth quarter specifically for them. But I think Florida State still outshined them. Anyhow, let's get to the questions. The rest of these, we're also going to talk. People want to see if we want to amend our top 40 at all. We'll see if we can dive into that one. It's a tough one to kind of do when we're not together and don't have the list right in front of our face. But let's keep it on the offensive line, the offense. A lot of questions focusing on this. Teacher Noles says, "Wake up. What are the chances we get Maurice Smith and Robert Scott back in the lineup for Virginia Tech? Would their return be the magical elixir that we need to get the run game going again? Without them, the line looks slow. Thanks. I love listening to the show on my morning walks." How early, though? If you're a teacher Noel, I mean, first bell rings at 7:15 in the morning?
Well, that's high school. If he's a middle school teacher, it doesn't ring until noon. Ridiculous how late middle school kids get to go to school, but Brady's got to get up at 5:45 in the morning to go to high school. Yeah, man, look, that is a thing that I think I'll be interested to see what this offensive line looks like when it's fully healthy. Who's starting where? Is Byers still your best bet at tackle, or do you move Bless Harris to right tackle and maybe move Byers inside or move him to the bench? I like Byers, man. I know he hasn't played well. That was a horrible matchup for him on Saturday. That kid was good. He didn't see a lot of that during his time at UTEP.
But he sees it in practice, though, Corey.
Never played in an environment like that. Yeah, he does, and he handles it pretty well at times. He just didn't handle it that game. Yeah. But I love what he gives you just from and this doesn't matter as much as ability and performance, but his personality, man, I think that's a big deal. He is not a quiet kid. Yep. He is a talker. He's a dog in that sense. He'll go after other defensive linemen. He gets fired up for his teammates. I love having that on the field, but not at the expense of getting blown past by opposing defensive ends. So I don't know if he moves well too. So I don't know if guard would be a better spot for him. But look, you've got 2 weeks to figure this out. But the running game has to be better. The offensive line in run blocking has to be better. Figure out your best 5 and where they go. Atkins gets paid a lot of money. He's really good at his job. He needs to figure this out because the last 2 games in particular have not been great efforts by any means.
I like how you mentioned Jeremiah Byers, his personality. He was actually running a rep with one of the players in the aforementioned question and gave him a chest bump afterwards. And you could see both of them smiling and laughing and being comforted by Jeremiah's behavior. Should I edit that out, Corey? Can I let that? Was that vague enough?
Yeah, that was plenty vague. I don't even know what you're talking about. Literally, I don't. So we're good.
Hopefully somebody picked up on it. I'm trying, everybody. I'm trying. Geo Noel, wake up. Thanks for all your hard work and dedication to giving us the best coverage of our beloved university. What a great start to the season that we have never thought could be. I probably wouldn't have thought 4-0. It was possible, but I wouldn't have said it was probable. Point taken, Geo Noel. Especially looking back at 2 years ago when Jacksonville State and 0-4 start. So, all right, I should have read the whole question before I commented. Sorry, Geo. Yeah. I would like your thoughts on the offensive line as far as how much Dylan Gibbons is truly missed. And if Byers is such a liability, why have you not tried Armella at right tackle? My question is, do you think we have too many weapons for us to identify, or rather to have an identity? Thanks for all you do. You have no idea the impact the show has on people. All right.
Oh,
Wow, that's nice. Thank you. Go Noles. That's a fair question about if Byers is such a liability, why is Armella not out there? Even though Armella runs like second team with Tate Rodemaker, they don't go from like first team to the second team guy, Corey. It's like we go from our third best guy to our sixth best overall guy, if that makes sense, right? And that for them is
and they have the Swiss Army knife with Darius.
Yep.
Darius Washington played center against Boston College, and then at the end of that game on Saturday against Clemson, he's playing right tackle. They did fire Byers in the middle of the game, or at the end of the game, and they put Darius Washington at right tackle for him. I just think they trust him. He's played a lot more football, certainly a lot more meaningful reps than Julian Armella. I think Armella, they have big plans for him. I think he'll probably be a starter next year, but I don't know if in that instance – but I guess moving forward, Virginia Tech we're talking about, not Clemson.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a possibility. I just think, I know Byers hasn't been great, but I think the pass pro has been fine. I mean, I think Jordan's been sacked 3 times all year, maybe. And I think that, again, just like we do with the offense as a whole, it's just hard to judge on the Clemson game. And the problem, it's not a big problem because you're 4-0. This game sits with you for 2 weeks. So if you were playing this week against Virginia Tech, and you did beat them 51-13, and you did run for 260 yards, all of a sudden the consternation is lessened a lot. And that might very well happen in 2 weeks. But right now, all we have to talk about is these last 2 offensive performances, specifically the last 5 quarters, and it wasn't great. And so there are reasons to be worried about the offensive line and about Jeremiah Byers. I think we'll know everything we're going to know about how they view him and how they view the rest of these 8 guys by how they line up against Virginia Tech. Or maybe more specifically, right, Aslan, if and when Robert Scott is back healthy, what the offensive line looks like then. Because there is a chance, like I said, Bless Harris is a good player. Maybe he moves to right tackle. Maybe Byers is out. Or maybe Byers moves to left guard and Roddick is out. Or maybe he moves to right guard and Emmanuel is out. Or Keandre Jones. Like, they've got all these options. They just got to figure it out.
Jeremiah Byers' grade, according to PFF, again, is 57.8 in pass blocking, which is below the 60 threshold that you apparently start out at. He's also graded out overall at 57.2. That's ahead on both counts of Maurice Smith. Casey Roddick's at 65. But, yeah, Bless Harris has the best pass blocking grade of the entire team at 88.5. And second place is Dimitri Emanuel at 86.2. Trey Benson's third, then Robert Scott's fourth.
Okay. All right.
So,
but health is a concern, too. You got to make sure these guys are healthy.
Yes, absolutely. Let's keep it on the offensive line. Circle back here. Random_John, which I guess second part of his question, thoughts on the offensive line as far as Dylan Gibbons, as he truly missed.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be nice to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a fair point. He was
no one told him to leave, though. Like, no, we didn't tell him to leave, but he had to leave, so,
Yeah, he was done. He had exhausted his eligibility, but yeah, he is missed, I think. But I also think, again, let's see what this looks like at the end of October. Let's see when Robert Scott is back, when Maurice Smith is more healthy, or healthier, I guess, as a normal person would say. Let's see what this offensive line looks like. Because they did run, nobody's going to run wild on LSU. And nobody's going to run wild on Clemson. I thought they were running perfectly fine against Boston College right up until their quarterback got hurt. So let's see what it looks like when the full sum of your parts is operating. And before we say they just can't run the ball, or before we say how much Dylan Gibbons has missed. Certainly you'd like to have him now because he could have filled in somewhere. But I think I think Roddick's played fine. He hasn't been Dylan Gibbons, I don't think. But he hasn't been, pick a lineman from 2018. He hasn't been that either. Been good enough.
Random_John, considering the lackluster performance of our running game, why does it seem that our offensive scheme is so dependent on Jordan Travis's mobility? Other teams with less mobile quarterbacks seem to have effective running games. What are we missing that they have? Also, I'm going to keep pushing Vitamin Energy, Register Sausage, Good Mood Sausage Biscuit update with Marquise and Douglas. Come on, make it happen.
There you go.
PPS, I am on Team Aslan for the driving home from Clemson story.
Oh, there you go, Aslan. There you go. See.
Okay. Maybe
Nice.
he didn't say that. Maybe I just put that in myself. Who knows?
Oh, who knows? Who could ever know? You
Who
can't
knows?
possibly know that.
Yeah, why
So-
are is it? It does seem like we are kind of painting a lot of this around. Like, hey, if Jordan was healthy, we wouldn't be dealing with this.
Well, the Boston College game, I think what did they run for against Southern Miss? 300 yards? And LSU's LSU. They should have been better on the running the ball against Clemson, like they were last year. They ran for like 200 yards against Clemson last year, I think. I don't know what else to say other than they seem to get the idea very quickly that they couldn't move Clemson out of the way. I thought the Boston College game, I thought the running game looked normal. It looked fine. They had some big runs, Hill and Benson. And then for whatever reason, when you're running, because they don't do a traditional running game. They don't just hand the ball off. Every single time they run the ball, I know it's not always an RPO, but it always looks like it could be. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it is not just a traditional, here's a toss sweep or here's a handoff off tackle. That just does not happen. It's always a counter or it's always a kind of a misdirection. And so much of that, not every team has that. When Clemson hands the ball off, they're just handing the ball off. When Florida State hands the ball off, it always seems like a part of it is wired into Jordan Travis is a threat to keep the ball. And I specifically go back to the end of the game against Boston College when they were crashing down on the read plays because they knew he would not keep it. That the face mask. If Jordan Travis keeps that ball, it's a 15-yard gain and the game is over. But he didn't. He handed it off because he was hurt. He didn't want to take a hit. I get it. Or it was a bad read. I guess I should say it was a bad read. I don't know for sure. But I know if he'd have pulled it, he can run around the right end for 10 or 12 yards. So all that being said, I just think that this running game is dictated more on his legs than a traditional Georgia-Alabama style rushing attack from years past. Should it be? I don't know. But I feel like that's how they teach it. That's how they block it. That's how they scheme it up, that we want you to have to account for our quarterback. And if you don't, our quarterback is going to make you pay until you do. That can't happen right now. So they don't account for the quarterback. And they got more people than you can block, it seems like.
They ran for 135 against LSU, 306 against Southern Miss, 128 against Boston College, 22 against Clemson.
Yeah.
And
last year, you remember they finished out the regular season last year by running for over 200 yards in 7 straight games?
I remember they kept showing like 4 consecutive games over 200 yards.
It ended with 7 because they didn't do it. Yeah. They did it against Florida, but they didn't do it against Oklahoma, so it ended at 7.
Yeah.
But, man, they ran for over 200 yards for 7 straight games. And I just think, man, the quarterback. I mean, I don't know. It's not like last year's offensive line, even if you think it's better than this current incarnation, wasn't worlds better. Right. It wasn't full of Larry Allen and Walter Jones. So I just maybe it shouldn't be. I guess that's the real question is why should it matter that much if Jordan's hurt? It probably shouldn't, but it does. It just does because, again, he could burn you 3 times a game if you dove in on the read until he widened the defense out because that guy crashing down, he can't crash down because he doesn't want to give up another 18-yard run to the quarterback. So he stays outside. Well, now there's a running lane, and they're just not there right now. Also, Clemson is awesome up front. That hurts.
Let's say LSU kind of has a pretty stout front four. Yeah. Southern Miss, not as much. You exploited that. Boston College game ended up being kind of a shootout, so you had to kind of rely on your passing game. I know you've had some tentative running from your running backs.
Yeah.
Jordan might not be all that great in terms of health-wise. I'm talking about like he's not, health-wise. He is a great quarterback. And then, they found themselves constantly 2nd and 10 against Clemson. And, if Clemson knows you're going to run the ball, and it's not even so much that Jordan might run it here or Jordan might not run it. If they know you're going to run the ball, period, doesn't matter who, that gives them a huge advantage. And when it's 2nd and 10, Florida State seemingly was like, all right, we don't want to go on to 3rd and 10, so we'll try to get 1 or 2 yards. Well, they didn't want to get 1 or 2 yards, but they apparently that's all they would get from Clemson because they're running into a defense that's talented and knew what they were doing. So,
well, and I go back to the Boston College game. They did not throw it late in the game like they should have. They were trying to kind of get out of there and run out the clock, and they couldn't do it. I think it would have behooved them to open up with more pass plays, get the chains moving, throw the ball a little bit more because you trust your quarterback. I know you have a lead, but you don't think he's going to give it to the other team, and then do that to set up the run. And I think and they didn't. They just kept running when Boston College was expecting run, and even bad defenses, if they know you're going to run the ball, you're in trouble, especially if they know that where you're going to run the ball because the quarterback isn't an option to keep it on the other side. So that hurt. But moving forward, Aslan, I do wonder if they realize, okay, we're going to change who we are. We're going to pass to set up the run. We might throw it 75% of the time because we can't run the ball. I don't think that's what they want. I don't think that's probably what they will do. But there is a chance over these 2 weeks that's what they choose to be their identity. Is we've got this quarterback that we might never have again, a player like him, and we've got these receivers that we probably won't ever have again, at least a combo like these two guys, plus the other dudes that are good that can't get any catches. Our biggest advantage, maybe they say, is our passing game and our wide receivers. They can't be covered by normal defenses. So let's use that more and quit running our head into a brick wall by trying to establish a run when we can't. Let's pass the ball a lot and then set up the run.
Is there anything left to talk about on the run game? One more question. M.
Okay.
Adam, CZ, first off says he thinks we're going to see a focused and surgical effort from the team in the next 3 home games.
Yeah,
doesn't understand all the complaining and negativity from some posters. Again, 2 years ago, 0-4 start. Now onto my question. What are 2 or 3 things that need to happen to get the running game back to 200 yards on average? Is it the fact that defenses believe Jordan won't pull it? We shouldn't necessarily need that threat. We have Benson, Hill, Toafili. Is it the offensive line not blocking it up the way that Atkins wants it? Maybe that's a secret. But maybe the secret is the threat of Jordan keeping and running it. Also, he points out he loves Keon and Johnny on the 50-50 balls, but we need to have the slot receivers more involved for those intermediate gains. Destin and Winston are too good to not get at least 3 or 4 touches their way, and that will really keep the defenses honest. Yeah, maybe that could be part of it too, right?
All of it, man. It's all part of it. Like they know, Clemson knew if you were going to throw, you're going to throw out wide, and they knew you couldn't run the ball because they knew the quarterback wasn't going to keep it. Florida State became pretty easy to defend in that game. They will not be like that moving forward. Number one, most teams can't defend Florida State like Clemson can. They don't have those defensive lines and those corners, quite frankly.
Hey,
and
real
the
quick,
linebackers
Corey. Real quick, is there any possibility that Florida State is throwing so much on the perimeter to try to open up the middle of the field to run the ball a little bit better? Crazy thought. I don't know.
Maybe, but it didn't seem
it's
like
not
it would
working.
make sense in that game because it didn't affect Clemson. They kind of guarded them the same way the whole game.
Yeah.
It's not like all of a sudden they gave up that pass to Johnny, the 40-yarder on the first play of the second half. Well, that didn't change the way they defended. They still kind of had their safety scooted in. They trusted their corners to be there one-on-one. They didn't give a lot of help to the sidelines, to the boundaries. They kind of defended how they were going to defend.
Yeah.
But I think most teams won't do that. I think most teams are scared to death of Johnny and Keon. And they will back up. And that should open up the running game more. I think these next 3 weeks – now, and I'm not dismissing any of the teams, but specifically Syracuse and Duke. We have no idea how good they are, but they might be legitimate, real tests. So these aren't cakewalks necessarily. But what a great time you've got 3 straight home games to figure out who you are against teams that aren't nearly as talented as you. They're good teams. Duke might be really good, but and I mean Syracuse and Duke look to be pretty good teams. But they're not nearly as talented as you. And what a great way to try to figure out, gain some confidence, and tell Jordan, just throw to the open guy. Read defenses again. You're going to get the pass protection. You don't have to just go back up and throw it because you're worried about Xavier Thomas coming off the edge or Tyler Davis pushing somebody right into you. You have time. Read a defense because you're really good at it. And he is. He's exceptional at it. Let him be him. And that's why I think I go back to, man, I would love for them. It doesn't have to be 4 wide or 5 wide or empty backfield all the time. But if I'm playing Virginia Tech, number one, they've got to get better at taking 5-yard throws. 5-yard completions are great. It seems like it's a little bit of all or nothing right now in a lot of their games, or it's screen game, design screens. just have some routes that are easy 4-yard completions or 6-yard completions. Get a flow going. But I want to see them throw like 20 of the first 26 plays. I want to see what that does to a defense. I also want to see these other guys involved because I don't – there's no reason. I think Florida State's wide receiver room in totality is as good as Washington's. I just do. Use them more. Use them more. That would be what I would try to do these next 2 weeks. But they also might try to really figure out the run game, and that might be bigger down the line anyway.
Yeah, it sounds to me like we should drop off a case of some Focus Plus maybe at more. Let them get focused. Figure out how they do want to attack the run game and make it better here during the off week, Corey. So,
okay.
But they make plenty of money, so they should just go to vitaminenergy.com. And coaches, you can use the promo code WarChantBOGO, WarChant BOGO. You can buy one, get one free. Take one to home and watch it in your home theater when you're watching your game. Would Coach Clark just watch film at the office, at the facility, or would Coach Clark convert his palatial estate to have at least one theater so that he can then watch film at home with the kid and the fiance around?
I think I would do it. I would have it at home too. Like I would want to show my face in the office. I'd want to be around the office, but at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, I'd like to go home, have dinner with my family, and maybe a little bonding as we watch, the nickelback for Virginia Tech and how you can exploit them. I think that's good bonding time.
Okay. Bond with your friends over at Vitamin Energy. Again, buy one, get one free. Give them one. Go to vitaminenergy.com. Use that promo code WarChantBOGO. It is energy with benefits. Back at it. Our Tuesday show was very heavily on the polls. Bradley Moss, Chaotic Nole, and Old Dad's a Nole. Look at that. Couldn't script it out better. They all want to talk about the polls. Bradley Moss saying it's ridiculous about the drops in the polls. Wonders, once Florida State leaves the ACC, will they be able to schedule cupcakes like the rest of these other teams because of their perceived strength that they're in, whether it's the SEC or the Big Ten? I mean, I guess Michigan's maybe proof positive of this. I mean, Alabama hasn't scheduled cupcakes, and Ohio State didn't schedule cupcakes, but I get, Georgia hasn't played anybody of great value. I mean, South Carolina's a decent program, but
yeah, but that's their non-conference schedule
right.
is what they control, and it's a joke.
Yeah, really hoping the college football playoff rankings come out and the strength of schedule comes into play because some of these other schedules are absolutely absurd. Chaotic Nole pointing out the craziness of the poll situation in terms of the way you vote. Apparently, a pollster admitted this and corrected himself, and it did not affect the bottom line. But the fact that this is possible, apparently a guy accidentally put Florida in for Florida State, so he had Florida, the University of Florida, ranked like 4th.
Yeah,
but
seventh.
Was it 7th? All right.
Yeah, and he had Florida State ranked 22nd.
All right. So, yeah.
He just confused the two.
Yeah. Your thoughts on that? Heard it would not have made a difference, but it seems ridiculous that these aren't peer-reviewed. That would take a lot of peers to review that sort of stuff.
Well, look, man, it's hard to vote in college football, and luckily, quote unquote, it's not supposed to matter. We have a committee of brainiacs that will meet in October and start deciding the fate of the season, and using great metrics like game control and whatnot to get that done. But my biggest issue with everything, I get why you could watch that Boston College game and go like, oh, Florida State's not that good. It's not, oh, they had an awful showing there in the second half. They were terrible the fourth quarter. It's like, oh, they're just not that good, which is just dumb. It's a dumb way to look at sports. They had the Golden State Warriors lose to teams that won 20 games. It just happens. They just, you melt down. It happens. And they melted down. I'm not excusing it. It was gross, but they still won the game. And then the next week, you're getting punished for winning at Clemson. And again, I guess my point is, let's say Clemson, Aslan, goes to win they go 9-3. And they beat Miami, who maybe is undefeated at the time, whenever they play. I don't know when they play Miami. Will Florida State then get a bump back to where they should be if Clemson goes on a 5-game winning streak? Will those pollsters that dropped them for only barely beating Clemson realize the mistake and go, you know what? I know Ohio State hasn't lost either, but that Clemson game that Florida State won, that's no joke. I'm going to bump Florida State back over Ohio State. No chance. Once you go down, you don't then go back up because of the team that you think isn't very good ends up being pretty good. Does any of that make sense?
Yeah. I mean,
But I said, like, I don't know if I articulated it well. Like, if Clemson right now is a 2-2 football team that these pollsters think isn't very good, and that Florida State apparently should have beaten them by more, even though they were a 2-point favorite.
Yeah, but in November, if they're 7-2, do you recalibrate?
I can promise you, no, you don't, because you're just looking at that week. So Clemson might move up, but
Right.
Florida State, you won't go back and say, man, on September 23rd or September 24th, I moved Florida State down 3 spots in my poll because they didn't look good against Clemson. Well, in hindsight, that's kind of dumb. I should go rectify that and move them back to where they belong because it turns out Clemson is a good team. That won't happen.
Right. Well, because I think it's like they played that team, right? Because I think a lot of people might have said that LSU was a better team than Florida State to end last year, and they were like, well, it was week 1. These teams are different now. I don't agree with it, but that would be the explanation as to why you wouldn't bump up Florida State. Like, yeah, they did beat Clemson, who I have ranked 18th now, but that was a different Clemson team. Like, they didn't have it figured out.
Yeah, but I don't think so. Like, again, you couldn't watch that game and think that Clemson team sucked.
No, I'm with you.
You know what I mean? I watched that Boston College game, and I'm like, yeah, they're not very good. This is ridiculous. What's going on? That Clemson game, I'm like, man, they're better than LSU. That's a good team. That's a talent. They're certainly better defensively than LSU. And if that quarterback continues to play well, like he did in that game, I thought he played really well, other than, what he did in overtime. That's a dangerous team. That's a good team. That's all I'm saying. It's not like Florida State beat a bad Clemson team. On that day, I thought Clemson was pretty darn good. Florida State on that day beat a good Clemson team. That's all.
Last one on the polls. Old Dad, he continued here. The longer I live, the more I realize just how absurd polls are. I mean, the only way a poll would work is if everybody played the same exact schedule. This is supposed to be amateur athletics, but with NIL confirming the concept of free agency, that ship has sailed. So how long before we live in a world where you win a division and a conference as your path to winning a championship? Will the Dallas Cowboys not make the Super Bowl because of that loss to the lowly Cardinals? I love traditions, but I'm so ready to move on from this system since it's already a pro-like sport anyway. Cheers to the two best.
I think we're getting there to an extent. I know the college football playoff committee was I don't know enough about it, but they were meeting the last couple of days. Apparently it wasn't to figure out the format, but I think they're going to go to a format where if you win your conference, if you win one of the 5 conferences, I guess there's 5.
Well, 4. Pac-12 is going to be. I don't know. Shout out Oregon State, Washington State. Fight, everybody. Hold on.
Yeah, man. Pac-2. That was a great game.
Lawyer up.
Pac-2 championship last weekend. If you win the conference, you're automatically in.
Yeah.
And then the rest is at large. So there will be an element of earning it by winning the games you're supposed to win against the teams that everybody else in your – and I know these conferences are too huge that they don't all play the same teams. But if you win your conference, you have played enough typically good teams. You had to beat at least one good team to win your conference. Even if you go 6-2, you have to win that championship game. That's an automatic to get in. I think that's fair. I think that's what it should be. I don't care if you go 8-4. If you win your conference and go to get to 9-4 and you beat, say, you're Penn State and you beat Michigan, or you're Nebraska somehow, if that ever happened, and you beat Ohio State or Michigan in the championship game, congratulations. You earned a spot at the table. Now you got to go win 4 more, and you probably won't, or 3 more, whatever it is, but you earned a spot at the table. I like that element to it, so it will have an element of actually earning it and not eye test nonsense. But the other 7 or 8 teams, the at-large teams, that's exactly what it'll be. So I guess the point being, you will have a chance to earn it by going and winning your conference. Otherwise, you hope your losses aren't too bad and you can still impress the right people and get in anyway.
KH Noel, wake up. Are we at risk of losing slot receivers to the transfer portal if we continue to distribute the ball mainly to Johnny, Keon, and Jaheim? Did Micah know something and it wasn't only about the money?
I mean, look, Micah knew something, and it was that number one, he wasn't healthy, and he was not. I mean, what did he catch? 25 passes. It wasn't like Micah was a huge weapon last year. Right. And let's be honest, man. Slot receivers haven't been a huge weapon since Norvell. The tight ends are as big a weapon as slot receivers. I think there's a chance you could say that, but I think a guy like Destin Hill or Vandravius Jacobs or whoever else, Winston Wright's only got 1 year. This is a one-off, man. Like, they're not going to have – it's Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman. It's not like you're losing catches to Andrew Parchment and,
come on,
Josh
respect.
Geary's.
4th and 14, respect, man. Respect.
I know, Parchment. I love you, buddy.
Lincoln High School, Josh Geary's, respect. Come on, Corey. Come on.
But you're not losing receptions to those guys. You're losing receptions to maybe the best wide receiver tandem in the country. So I think it's just a unique year. I think you sell Destin Hill and you sell Vandrevius Jacobs and you sell Darian Williamson. Like, look at these guys, man. Do you really think you should be playing more than them? We will try to get you the ball. You are a part of our offense. We want to get you the ball. But if we have a one-on-one with these two guys, that's always our first priority. And next year when they're gone and you continue to develop and get better, you're going to be our number one priority. This is how life works. You're not as good as they are right now. So you shouldn't be getting the ball thrown to you 10 times a game. Now, granted, it should be more than 0. We all understand that. But next year, you'll be in their role. And you're going to be the ones that the guys behind you will be like, man, why do you keep throwing to him all the time? Well, he's better than you. So I'm sure you'll lose some, but that's nature. That's the nature of the business anyway. And let's be honest. The Keon Coleman for the Micah Pittman trade, you won that going away. That was a fleecing. That was like, Brett Favre being traded from the Falcons to the Packers for I don't even know what we got. Tony Smith, maybe, running back from Southern Miss. I mean, who, ironically, another Southern Miss guy. And I like Micah Pittman, and I appreciate what he did for the program sincerely, and you still miss him at punt returner. I sincerely appreciate the toughness that he helped bring to this program and the culture he helped establish, but they are worlds different. You did not lose anything. If Micah Pittman's here, maybe Keon Coleman isn't here. So you won that exchange.
Micah Pittman's played in 2 games for Utah. He has 3 catches for 20 yards, in case you wanted some context there, everybody.
Well, and they don't have a quarterback that can throw right now, right?
Which is even more context.
Well, sure. Yeah, good point.
Bring it on. NYC, Noel, wake up, gents. It's been a minute. Happy to be 4-0. It's a bye week, so no question. Just want you to know I'm still listening, and you guys do a great job. Keep it up. Go Noles. Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Thank you, man. We appreciate that.
Let's speed through these. We've been going long.
Okay, let's do it. Let's speed round.
All right, Walking Knoll 01. What's up, you two? Excited for where we are, but glad to hear the coaches realize how much we can improve. Question, do you feel like any team we play this year is just going to plan to play keep away from us?
Yeah, I mean, Boston College did that.
Clemson did on the last drive, which is what he also added in his question, which I didn't read, but yeah.
What do you mean on their last drive?
Well, he was selling for a field goal, right? Norvell had to use timeouts to stop the clock because,
but I think that was, look, by the way, a play that is lost in that game is when it was 3rd down before the field goal. I think it was 3rd and 10, 3rd and 9. I think he's trying to run clock, but he's also, that's the right thing to do. You don't want to throw 3 incompletions and give a good offense more time to get down the field, especially where you're wide, you're definitely in field goal range. But that 3rd and 10, they run a draw with Klubnik. Peyton makes a sensational play to trip him, to grab him. I think there's a chance if you watch the replay. Like DJ Lundy's out there. I think it's Lundy. But I don't know that I trust that DJ Lundy can keep him from turning the corner. And if he turns the corner, it's definitely a first down, maybe a touchdown. But Patrick Payton stopped him right at the line of scrimmage. I just think those are the plays that kind of get lost. That's a really big play to force the field goal and not let them, either score a touchdown or, drain the clock all the way down for even more of a chip shot.
I think.
But yes.
Duke might try to employ that. Yeah.
Like Syracuse, I feel like is kind of a hurry up.
Yeah.
Miami, I think, like most of these teams now are hurry up, and they don't want to just completely change. They have too much pride. And I don't know what it says to your team 9 games into a season to be like, look, the guys, I know I keep telling you we can beat this team. They're not that good. But really the only way we can win is to run it down to 1 second on the play clock every time and try to keep this as short a game as possible. You can do that at Boston College because they know they're not any good, and they understand the reasoning. I don't know that you do that with Miami or Wake because the Wake's beating Florida State every year they play them these days, or Florida. Pitt maybe, but Duke is the one that I think could because Duke kids are probably pretty smart. I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're pretty smart. They probably understand that they're not maybe as gifted physically as Florida State is, and there's no need to get into a shootout where each team gets 14 or 15 possessions against Florida State. Knock that down to 9 possessions, and you got a real chance. So I think Duke is the one you would think of that could. Maybe Virginia Tech too.
Winkles, what's up? Wake up. It's never too early to talk about potential playoff matchups. What team does FSU currently match up with the best? maybe the homer in me, but the only team that would worry me is Washington and Ohio State with their wideouts. Georgia has Clemson vibes. Great defense, young, and experienced offense. Michigan, ? LOL.
Look, yeah, you were right the first part. It is sorry, you were wrong the first part. It is too early to worry about playoff matchups. I think Florida State matches up well. Well is not right. That's not correct. I think Florida State can beat any of those teams.
I think those teams can beat Florida State too. I'm sure they're looking at. They're like, oh, Florida State's looked terrible against Boston College and Clemson, who they thought they, like. I could see that. And they're thinking the same thing.
What would give you a little hope in all those games? I think I'm right about this. I don't think the Ohio State kid can run real well, right?
No, the quarterback, yeah.
I don't think I don't know that he's an athlete. Penix is an okay athlete, but he's not sensational. I think Washington's going to throw the ball a lot. I think you could impact that team by hitting the crap out of Penix in the pocket, which I think you would. They're going to make some plays because those receivers are really good and he's good. And that's a really tough offense. But also I think you would slice through any Pac-12 defense you faced. Just slice through it. And so that would help. Georgia doesn't have a real mobile quarterback. The only thing that really gives me pause is the mobile quarterback.
Right.
All those teams can score in the mid-20s against you, but I feel like you can score more against them, I guess. But we're also in September. So who knows?
Sneaky pick. It probably should be the Pac-12 champion period because it's either going to be Washington, I would think, or Southern Cal. Maybe it would be Oregon. And I know it's not one of those you can't replicate it, but apparently this is like 1.5 years now with Southern Cal where their defense is horrible, but they do create turnovers. So in a game against Florida State probably doesn't lose a 31-28 game. But maybe they lose a 45-42 game. And it's a game where a Southern Cal creates a fumble, right? They pick off a pass or two. That's what would worry you. Nothing worries me per se, but just trying to zag a little bit there because I don't
think you're worried. You're not. I don't think you're looking at any team in the country and going no chance or that's going to be a bear.
Right.
I think all of them are.
Well, Southern Cal's got a guy named Bear.
That's true from Georgia.
Yeah.
But I think that I think you look at those games as all winnable games if you play well, and clearly if you don't, you got no chance. But I don't look at those matchups going USC's got a tough offense to defend. Well, so do you, and your defense is better than theirs. And you would say the same thing about Washington. Anybody in the Pac-12 really. Texas will be a tough game. Michigan's very good. Penn State is loaded. Penn State's good, man, and their quarterback looks good. So they would all be tough matchups. But you can hang with those teams, and you'd have to hope. I would think you'd hope it comes. It would be like what we were just talking about. It'd be an NFL game. It'd be a one-score game in the fourth quarter. Are you going to make those plays at the very end of the game that matter the most?
Our guy Bourbon is your friend. Saved the spot in line, but didn't get a question in before the buzzer. So thanks for the effort. We'll see you next week. Maybe Bourbon is your friend. Cajun Nole. Some people they'll post in the thread like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" and then they'll come back later and edit it and actually put their question in. They want to get a spot in line, but you got to show back up during operating hours. Cajun Nole, wake up! Now that we're through the first quarter of the season, what changes would you make to your top 40? Go Noles, but he spells it the Cajun way with the X with the UX in there. I'll begin, Corey. I grossly undervalued Bless Harris. I have him at 34th. I had Jeremiah Byers at number 9. I thought Jeremiah Byers was like a surefire second-round pick this year out the gate leaving here. That is not materialized. So what Bless has done in Robert Scott's absence here has been really, really solid. So I should have probably had him much higher up on my list. And listen, I don't want to be that guy, but Trey Benson at 4, at this point in the season, is he even going to be in the top 10? Those are like the only two that really stand out to me. I have Greedy at 13. That's probably a little too high. But I have Renardo as my number 1 cornerback, so I feel okay about that. What have you looked at your top 40, Corey?
Yeah, I'm kind of happy with it. I agree with you on Benson. I think I would knock him down. And I had Keon at 6. He probably needs to go up. He needs to be 4. My top 5 was Jordan, Jared, Johnny,
That was our
Trey,
top 3 together.
and Jaheim.
Yeah, we had the same top 4, but
Yeah, I
Keon
would
at
probably
5,
move. I would switch Keon and Trey for sure.
Yeah.
I had Fisk at 7. I think that's perfectly fine.
Yep. Same.
Daryl Jackson's at 12. Obviously, he's not there. I had Joshua Farmer at 22. I would move him up to maybe Daryl Jackson's spot at 12. And I don't know, man. Renardo Green, it's like maybe switch places with him and Peyton. I have Peyton at 8. But I had Peyton at 8 because of how valuable he would be if he was good. How important he was, how important that position is. And he made some big plays in that game. He's not been great, but he had a batted down pass. He had a sack at the end of the half. He had that play I just talked about that was a much bigger play than I think people realize. So he's had some moments. And Akeem Dent I had at 20, and apparently that's too low. He's much more valuable than we thought. But otherwise, man, it's hard to argue with this. Like, I don't know, man. Yeah, I had Jeremiah Byers at 11. I had Bless at 23, but Bless didn't even start the season.
Yeah.
Like, would Bless even be playing?
But that's
if
the whole
Robert
point
Scott
of this
hadn't
thing.
gotten hurt?
We're at practice. We should know these things.
Well, we weren't at practice when we made this list. Remember, this was made in June.
That's true.
So, and I would say, Azaria Thomas at 34, I'd have him up a little higher. And honestly, I had Rodemaker at 40 and KJ Kirkland at 39, just because I thought they needed a backup safety, and this was before we knew Kevin Noles would be that guy.
Yeah.
I would sneak Mastromanno on the list.
Ooh, all right, I like that.
He has been.
Ira had him at 39.
But that's probably where you'd put a punter.
Yeah.
But man, he's been sneaky, really important these last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
He's made some big kicks when they needed them. I think he had a ball down at the 3 the other day at Clemson. He had a cut 4 50-yarders. He had one bad punt, and they got the ball at midfield and went in for a touchdown. Again, shows you kind of how valuable a punter can be. The next 4 punts he had were bombs. So that was good to see. That was a good response. And Fitzgerald, too, has been perfect so far. Not to try to jinx him, but the cool thing is, Aslan, when you really look at it, they have so many good college football players that I don't see any egregious mistakes.
No. I was going to ask you this. You have him at 15. I have him at 19. But the play that Kalen DeLoach made, if there's like one singular play, I have Tatum Bethune one spot ahead of him. So at minimum, love you, Tatum. I should probably have Kalen at 18. But is Kalen at 15 right, or do you think that he maybe should be nudged up even ahead of that?
Yeah, so I have him at 15. In front of him are Robert Scott at 14, Renardo Green at 13. I'm not putting him ahead of Renardo. No. Daryl Jackson, I'll put him ahead of. Robert Scott, I would put him ahead of. Yeah. Jeremiah Byers, I'd put him ahead of. Fabian Lovett, no.
I don't know. I would. I think I would.
Shaheem Brown, probably.
Oh,
and Patrick Payton, probably.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think I have him at 15. I think you could sneak into the top 10 with the way. Not just that one play, although that's a monster
play.
But
it is, though, man.
But I think he's been pretty good throughout. Him and Bethune, man. Them being healthy is a big deal. And, again, I want to give it under the context is look at how the linebackers play, not trying to kill kids, but look at how the linebackers play that aren't them. Like they're not the disparity between them and their backups. And Lundy's made some plays. I don't mean to put that all. Lundy's made a couple big plays. He had a sack. He sacked against LSU on 4th down.
You have him on your top 40. I did not have DJ.
No. I'm saying like
I know what I'm saying. That might have been.
I think they become even more valuable in the context of how much better they are than their backups. So that's So, and that's why Trey should maybe be whittled down a little bit too. He's better than the guys behind him, but not a crazy amount better. Like they're 4-0, and Trey Benson has not had a good start to the season. So how valuable is he really? You know what I mean? Like he's valuable. He's a good player, very good player, but he's probably not the 4th most valuable player on the team or 4th most important player on the team. But yeah, man, it's a cool list to look at and be like, yeah, I feel like these are all pretty solid guesses back in June. Yeah. It's a good team full of good players.
Speaking of value, it's gone down a little bit. Florida State keeps winning games. They might be dropping in the polls, but their odds get shorter. I think that was the term, Corey. Shorter odds. Okay. Shorter odds. Right. So Georgia plus 204 to win the whole darn thing. Michigan plus 440. Florida State plus 770. Could have gotten in on this at like, was it ever plus 2,000? They were 20 to 1 at one point, weren't they?
Florida State?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, probably before the LSU game.
Yeah. So value is, again, those odds shortening, but there's plenty of options out there on mybookie.ag. Use the promo code WARCHANT for your instant cash deposit bonus. Based on a percentage of your deposit, they will give you that cash deposit bonus. You also can bet on the conference winners, which the value on that one, probably not as great. Let me pull that up real quick. I can do that. I have the computer in front of me, I think. It's not listed alphabetically by conference, but here we go. Florida State minus 168. Minus 168.
To win the conference.
To win the ACC. Second best odds, second shortest odds. Miami of Florida at plus 670. Clemson plus 2,500.
That's tough. Just because they got the 2 losses already.
Yeah, which is fair. That's the way it works. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean Miami is 4 times the team that Clemson is. It's just Miami, it's the way the schedule breaks now. Miami seems like, I'm not going to even say it. Never mind.
Say it.
It would be wasting your money, folks. It would be, you might as well just take your money and eat it or set it on fire or wipe your butt with it and then set it on fire.
Oh, jeez. Graphic.
Sorry.
Graphic. MyBookie.ag, Sportsbook, Live Casino, it's all there. Use the promo code WARCHANT. MyBookie.ag, bet anything, anytime, anywhere. All right, a couple more questions to get to here. Corey's on the way out. Pimpinoli, bye week, wake up. You might have gone over this already, but what do you guys think are the most intriguing matchups this weekend? Also, do you do anything different during a bye week? We'll get to that one in a second, but interesting matchups this week, Corey. Let me see if I pull it up here, the slate. I know that there's a decent Pac-12 game. Utah at Oregon State, that's on a Friday, as well as Louisville, NC State. I'm excited to see Duke and Notre Dame, man. I'm excited to see how that shakes out. Southern Cal and Colorado, that should hit the over, I would assume, with those two teams going up against each other. Texas, Kansas is going to be a sneaky good game, I feel. Anything else out there that catches you? I mean, South Carolina at Tennessee, see if maybe Tennessee's got right. Iowa State at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's looked decent. They have a pretty good path to winning the Big 12 if they can get past Texas. LSU at Ole Miss, sneaky good game too.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of intriguing games, and just starting in the conference, like Clemson at Syracuse. A noon game in Syracuse. Clemson's favored by 6.5 points. But Syracuse is 4-0, and their quarterback is hard to tackle. And that's the only test Syracuse has had so far. They started out, I think, last year same way because they don't play anybody to start the season. It's crazy.
Purdue. Hey, Purdue 2 years in a row.
That's true. That's right. They won at Purdue. That's right. No disrespect there, I guess. But so I want to see that game. That will tell us everything we need to know about both teams, really, I think. Notre Dame at Duke is a good call. I think those are the only ones in the ACC I care about.
Yeah.
But the Clemson-South Carolina game, in Duke and Notre Dame, that's intriguing, man. I really am, because you play Syracuse in 2 weeks. So if they can beat Clemson, if they beat Clemson worse than you beat Clemson, as in not have to go to overtime with them, well, then now oh, no, that's a game. Or if Clemson beats them 38-17, it's like a welcome to reality moment for Syracuse, and they've just beaten up on a bunch of bad teams. You know what I mean? Like that. I think that'll tell us a lot. Utah-Oregon State's a good game. You mentioned
Friday.
USC-Colorado.
Yep.
I also the Florida-Kentucky one you mentioned.
Yeah, I did not mention that. I did not mention that. Thank you, Corey, for bringing it up.
That's right. What about LSU Ole Miss?
Root for LSU in every game, everybody. I love Lane, but I need Lane to lose so that Florida State looks better.
But that's an intriguing one, right?
It is. That'll be a good game. Yeah.
Because LSU's secondary clearly is not very good. I don't think Ole Miss's defense is any good. That could be another shootout, just like LSU had against Arkansas, but it's at Ole Miss. So it's just a matter of how much Ole Miss is beat up from playing Alabama. But I think that's an intriguing game, and I think Florida State will always keep an eye on Clemson and LSU for the rest of the year. Florida State fans will. But I am genuinely interested in how Syracuse looks against Clemson, and how Clemson comes back from that devastating loss. Because if they're 2-3 and 0-3 in the conference, right now Clemson kind of reminds me, because they are a good team, and there is a chance they turn out to be 10-2. I don't want to sound like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, but they could go up there and lay an egg because it's a noon game after a devastating loss the week before, and Syracuse might be pretty good. Certainly bowl good. What if Clemson starts 0-3 in the conference, man? Wouldn't that kind of remind you? But another close loss.
Right.
Wouldn't that kind of remind you about how Bowden's tenure started to fade? Where they started losing close games, and he's like, well, he started saying things like, well, 50% of the teams lose each week,
Right.
or we're this close to being 5-0. Because
Yeah.
if you look at that 2006 season, well, a lot of those seasons, they would lose games barely.
Yeah.
And so Dabo, even after, Dabo said during this week, he's like, we're 4 plays from being undefeated, and everybody telling them how good they are. Well, if you lose another close game to Syracuse, and now you're 0-3, you can't then sit there and say, we're this close to being awesome. It is staring you blank in the face that you have taken a huge dip down. Now the more I think about it, this is an enormous game for Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose to Syracuse, buddy, they might not make a bowl, or they might be 6-6. Like, I just can't fathom it though, because I saw that defense play. They're good.
They got up for that game though, man. That was their Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're right. That's what I'm saying.
That
And they
was their
might
Super
just
Bowl.
kind of, if they mail it in, man, it's not just a bad season. Dabo's got some real answers. Like, Dabo's seeing the writing on the wall almost, where he's got to make some drastic changes.
Quinn67, what a great result this past weekend. 7-point win would have been taken by everyone if offered in the preseason. 4-0, suck it, Clemson. Bye week bliss, what's your preferred way to take in college football on a bye week? Stay at home, lock in on games, go to a bar, watch multiple games, watch intermittently as you can, or do you take the week off and don't watch? Ideally, I stay at the home, and I've just got screens going on. I'm going to go home and visit my parents, though, and be a good child. But, yeah, low-key, I love the at Syracuse, at Boston College games when they roll in, because I usually don't go to those, so I can just stay at home and watch football all day. So
Right.
Give me that opportunity to park my rear end. I will park it. So I'll be at my mom's. I'll probably flip on a couple games.
But
here
even
and there.
those games, it's cool because I did it too. I didn't go to Boston. I was watching here. But it's not like I was watching in the other games as they were going on.
Right, because
You're kind of locked in for 3.5 hours on one channel.
Yep.
But when the team isn't playing at all, buddy, you're flipping back and forth. You're doing multi-view. So that's what I'll do is I'll just sit in my recliner. Hopefully Stephanie will be kind enough to make me some breakfast. I don't expect it of her, people. I don't ask her to. She loves to do it. So if she makes me breakfast, and I'm talking about brunch. I'm talking about like 11:30. Just get the day going. See who the guest picker is on game day, and then get to the football watching. We have a party that night, but Clemson Syracuse is at noon. I think LSU Ole Miss is 3:30. So I've got that plan, that little pocket with all the other games that I can switch back and forth. That's what I do. Is a lot of people would be like, let's take my son out to the pumpkin patch, or let's go on a hike and really use this Saturday as something. No. I'm a college football fan. And the worst part of my job, and there aren't any bad parts, honestly, I'm certainly not going to complain about it to you folks, you fine folks, is that when I'm at a game, I don't get to pay attention to anything else.
Right.
Like, I'm a college football fan, but most days, my whole day is watching another team, watching one game.
Right.
And I just have to catch up on box scores or see highlights afterwards. I don't get to watch multiple games at once and all the great games that are happening down to the wire. I don't get to see a lot of that. So I'm going to take advantage on a Saturday when I'm not watching Florida State.
I lied. 2 more. Polk County Knoll, though. This goes into the polls and everything, so we'll kind of blend it in here. 4-0 feels so good. Thanks for all the coverage. It's been fantastic. My problem with rankings that it's saying to me that the country is clearly telling us that if we lose, we're out. Ohio State's got a better chance to make it in with a loss in Michigan and not even playing in their conference championship game than Florida State does if they were to lose to Miami or Florida and win their conference. It's gross and unwaveringly unfair. All I'm saying is we do not have this free loss that we've been saying all offseason. We cannot stop now. We have to win out.
Well, it's a fair point, especially when you watch them drop in the polls. It does depend on the rest of the schedule, which I think when you look at it from a pragmatic point of view kind of makes sense. What if LSU goes 7-5? I don't think that'll happen, but what if it does?
Yeah.
What if Clemson goes 6-6? Well, then you don't have – right now I think you have 2 really good wins. And what if Clemson loses a couple more times at home, which I certainly don't expect to happen, but you never know. Right now you have 2 really good wins in September. By December 2nd, those wins might have lost a lot of luster. And what if Miami collapses, or Duke ends up being a normal Duke team, or Syracuse ends up being a normal Syracuse team? and Florida ends up being 7-5. Like, you don't have a lot of chances to pick up marquee victories. And if your two marquee victories so far end up not being as good as you thought, and by the way, you lost at Wake Forest. I mean, and Ohio State's loss is to Michigan. I mean, you can see, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to compare resumes. Like, what if Notre Dame ends up being 8-4? What if Ohio State doesn't have a good win? But they'd have to have one good win, right? Either Penn State or Michigan, because they play them both. But that's where it comes down to, man, and that's where really the get out of jail free card is if LSU ends up having a top 15 type year, and if Clemson ends up having a top 20, 25 type year. Then those wins carry a lot of weight on December 9th or December 3rd, whenever they're doing the polls. And you might play a really good team in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Or you might play a team that's 8-4 or 9-3. You might play a Louisville team that's only there because they haven't played anyone. You're not going to get any credit for beating Louisville. You're certainly not going to get the credit for beating Louisville that Ohio State will get for beating. Well, they wouldn't get a rematch with Michigan.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. You're right. I agree with you right now that I think Ohio State would get the benefit of the doubt if they lost the game to Penn State, because who would Florida State lose to? In the eyes of the pollsters or the people that vote and matter, the committee, whoever Florida State loses to on this schedule is not the same caliber as Penn State or Michigan. And
that might be right, though.
Oh, I agree.
Right?
Like again, I get it. If you lose at Wake Forest, now if you lose at home to Miami and Miami ends up being a 10-2 team,
right?
Miss me with all that, man.
Yeah.
Miami's a good team, but if you lose it on the road to Wake Forest, I mean, losses matter. They hurt, and it becomes like, do your big wins matter or your bad loss matter more? And I think Florida State would be, because of the perception of the ACC. Although I think the ACC seems to be better this year. The perception, especially with Clemson being down, is that the ACC is down, or not as good as maybe it normally is, or it's certainly not as good as the Big Ten or the SEC, or the Pac-12 for that matter, that you will not have that margin for error. But win the ACC championship, and then we'll cross that bridge when you get there.
Last one, Journal 1518. Wake up. It's the bye week, or as some say, idle.
Idle, that's right.
It's a non-football question that I present to y'all. I was invited to 2 weddings this weekend. Thankfully, it doesn't conflict with FSU football. Obviously, I'm only able to attend one of the weddings. Why, obviously? Can you not go to both, Jer? Can you not maybe show up for a few hours here and then go to the other one?
Maybe at the same time. Probably at late evening or early evening. Probably tough. Yeah, but you're right. You could make an appearance at both.
Unless one's out of town. Anyhow, question for the wedding that I can't make it to, am I supposed to give more money or less money than I normally would if I were attending? I, Journal, figured less since I'm saving them money on food and drink by not going. However, I presented this question to some friends. There were mixed opinions. Some said I should give more money to the wedding I'm not going to. I will let you both have the final say on what the proper etiquette would be here, since I cannot seem to get a clear answer. Well, I've got to save the date for a wedding with Corey Clark and his fair maiden, Stephanie.
Yes.
So, If I were not to go to the wedding, I would still give you a present, but not nearly as much as I would if I were to actually attend. They have. It's like $150 a head for food and drink, pretty much budgeted as a guest. So if you're not going to go, that's $150, less they have to budget for. So, yeah, you can give them less. You're not there. Yeah,
How about this?
I think giving a present to any wedding you're not going to, I think that's a great gesture.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I was also going to say, but I don't know who was this? Jerry?
Journal, yeah.
So, I don't know his real name, but I don't know if he's married. You're clearly not married.
Clearly.
I shouldn't say clearly. That sounded disrespectful. I apologize for that.
Okay.
I mean, it's been established that you're not married. Sorry. Not clearly. Like, who would marry this fool? I've been married before. I don't remember who got us anything. I could not tell you one wedding gift that we got. Now the wedding was 20 years ago, but I could promise you 2 weeks after the wedding, I couldn't tell you anything that anybody got for us off our registry. My point being, just get them something off. I assume people still do registries, right?
Yeah.
Just get them something relatively cheap on their registry. It's on their registry. They need it. They've said they need it. You don't have to go above and beyond because you're not there. You are saving them money. Clearly, they don't mean that much to you because you're not at their wedding. So just give them something kind of lowerish on the totem pole of their registry requests, and they won't remember it either way. They will remember because they'll send you a thank you note if they have any etiquette at all. They will write you a thank you note and say thank you for the blender, or thank you for the hand mixer or whatever. But they're not going to remember it in 6 months. They're just going to remember you got them a gift.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think going the extra mile for a wedding you're not at means as much as maybe you've been led to believe. Right. I think just do the bare minimum. That's kind of a way to go through life. Just a good way to look through. Unless you're really hurting their feelings by not going, which I don't think you are, or you would be going.
Yeah, unless it's like, well, your brother's getting married and that's why you can't go to their wedding and they're like your best friend or something, which I don't think would conflict that way. Yeah. I don't want to say bare minimum, but I would just say whatever is standard operating procedure for the Nole family when it comes to giving gifts, maybe take 15, 20% off of it,
Oh, I just say go do what you just do what you were going to do. Whether you go there or not, I think Aslan's right. I think the fact that you get them a gift. Well, I don't know. Like, aren't all gifts delivered ahead of time now, or do you still bring them in bags to weddings?
It depends. I mean, if you're ordered on the registry, it just gets delivered to the house. But
that's what I'm saying,
if you
man.
want to buy
you did
something
your part.
Special, you
did your part, and you're at another wedding. It's not like you're choosing to go hunting or go to a NASCAR event. You're going to another wedding. So you've done your part. You're a good friend. Even you like wrestling with it.
Yeah.
Makes you a pretty good friend, I think. And I hope they appreciate having you in their life. Now, you're not at their wedding, so they won't appreciate you that much. But I hope they appreciate that you really did wrestle with this, and they just lost out to a more important couple.
And whoever your friend is that said you should actually give them more money, eliminate them from your friend circle.
What are you going to do for the wedding you do go to? Get them a helicopter? Come on, it's just a wedding. Just go on the registry. You're all good. Just get something off the registry. By the way, I don't think we have a registry. I don't think we're expecting gifts, actually, Aslan.
All right, well, then I will. Well, never mind then. Maybe I won't do it. Maybe I will.
Okay.
Who knows?
All right.
My presence is the present.
That's all we're asking for.
By the way, I will. If you want me to film it, I'll film it. I'd rather not, but I can do
it.
No,
you're not filming anything. There is a segment of the ceremony. It's one segment, probably the first dance.
Yeah.
That we would like you to film.
Oh, okay, for sure.
But there's for reasons I can't get into now.
Okay.
But other than that, there's nothing. You're not going to be we're not asking you to work or anything.
Okay. Can I put like a GoPro on you too? Have like a Corey cam cutaway during the first dance? Like
Buddy, what all you want to do? Yeah, absolutely.
Full production. All right, good.
Yeah,
right.
do it.
I appreciate it. All right, that's a wrap for us this week. Thanks for coming and hanging out, even on an off week. We appreciate the heck out of all y'all. Plenty of content over at warchant.com, talking recruiting, talking about the changes that might be tweaked here to get Florida State playing their best 60 minutes for full 60 minutes. It's all over at warchant.com. So stay connected. Go over there. Hit the thumbs up. I think we kind of earned it, maybe. Who knows? 5-star rating and review. After we told you to do the bare minimum. The bare minimum is just hitting the thumbs up, everybody.
Absolutely.
Do it. He's Corey Maslon. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.